Uh-oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Was there anything in that reading that struck you as, oh no, or like an impossibility of sorts?
Not an impossibility, but I believe you said loneliness can take you to the light.
Yes.
And that it doesn't sound impossible. It just sounds, I see loneliness as when you just kind of are lingering in that dark place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So lingering in darkness, and you know, this is really very inspiring conversation because most of us have been taught to fear the darkness. We've been taught to fear things that are uncomfortable for us, right? But when you look at nature, everything is produced in the dark,
Hmm,
right? I mean, when you plant seeds in the ground, it's dark
true.
and they don't pop right out. They have to go through the whole process of actually transforming themselves under the dark, in the dark, under the ground. And only then do they keep reaching for the light to come out. And when they come out, that's when they actually bloom. So avoiding that darkness is what keeps many of us inside of a conversation of loneliness.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things, you know, and we talk about this all the time, the importance of journaling. Sometimes loneliness is perpetuated because we keep having these ongoing conversations in our head. Well, if you journal, if you actually take time to write down, I remember when I first started journaling in my teens, I used to hate my thoughts. I was like,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, this is, I didn't like the way my thinking was. So for a long time, I refused to journal because it seemed like my thoughts were so dark.
Mm,
So then I started writing poetry.
okay.
And in writing poetry, I was able to use a little bit more of the imagery. So it was still kind of dark sometimes, but because of the imagery, it was a little more settling. It didn't cause me to feel so bad about it. So if we can use that time that we are feeling alone to really examine ourselves and see what conversations are there for us to look at. I mean, there's a lot of things that our soul want to tell us, but we get so busy, we're not listening,
Mm,
right? We literally have a blueprint. I was listening to a conversation this morning, and Robert Schwartz, remember? Your
yes.
soul's plan, right?
Hmm.
Literally taking a course with him right now where we're looking at, how do you actually examine yourself to see if you're on the path to fulfilling what you came here to do, or if you're on the path that you need to change. Like that, I might have signed up for this, but I want to change it now because that's not what I want to do anymore. And you get to do that. But how do you do that if you don't take time to get to know what's going on inside of you? So I actually think that being alone is one of our initiation that the universe provides for us to really get comfortable with who we are, good, bad, and ugly.
I agree with that 100% because I've
Mhm.
been, well, I'm an only child, so being alone is not
Yes,
really a big issue for me because I just grew up in that space.
right.
As an adult, after being in relationships and being married and all that kind of stuff, being alone became different. But I had my kids for a while. Once I empty nest, and then I wasn't in a relationship, then that was like different. I felt like I had went back, but I've become comfortable in my aloneness because it does give me a chance to really get in touch with me, and really it gives me a chance to be free.
Yes.
And free
I
is a great thing.
Free is a great thing. And my creative, I've always been creative, but now I don't have to. say, oh, let me put this to the side. No, I can be creative right now in the space. What do you
Yeah.
want to do next?
Right.
I can wake up with a blank slate every day and have every day be different because I don't have to cater to, corporate needs, family needs, spousal needs, you
Exactly.
know. Yeah. So that type of freedom is it's a different experience.
It
And
is.
I believe everybody needs to experience, because one of the things that I actually do see happen when I'm working with couples and in marriages is that they tend to forget who they are in the relationship, and they try to be a perfection to their mate or
Mm-hmm.
to who the family think they are, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When actually the only allegiance we should really be catering to is the God within us.
Mm-hmm.
See, the reason that we have a mate is because we're fulfilling on whatever it is the universe brought the two of us together to make a difference. And that difference usually isn't about you and the other person. It's usually about the community. It's usually about some gift that you're bringing that's going to make a difference, and forward life for someone other than yourselves. And, so sometimes, it's like if you go into that relationship and, because all I wanted was to be married, all I wanted was to have a husband or have a wife,
Mm-hmm.
then you're actually missing something there.
Mm-hmm. Because they think that person is going to add something to them that makes them happy.
Oh, yeah, that becomes the fulfillment. You're not making me happy. You know how many times that comes up? I'm just not happy with her. I'm not happy with him. When actually, and we do this, we talk about the mirror work. Anytime you look outside of yourself and say that someone else is not doing something for you, you have to come back and say, well, where am I responsible?
Mm-hmm.
How can I take responsibility for my own happiness and fulfillment?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times if you really master being alone and you have the opportunity to be in a relationship, now that relationship becomes more fulfilling because you're not placing so much responsibility on the other person for what you expect them to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that meme that floats around the internet. It says that when a person has been single for a while, it's not about how good they are. It's about whether what they bring makes you happier than you already are by yourself. Like you have to be able to break not my peace. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do. You have to add another level of value.
Exactly. Because I'm
You got to
already
bring
good.
something. Oh yeah, right. Because literally, and this is true about anything, and it needs to become true about anything that we allow into our space. It has to add value
Yes,
for
absolutely.
us to allow it to take up our time, energy, and attention. And if it doesn't, or if it stops adding value, we get to assess that. And you really can't assess things if you always have something or somebody in your ear.
Right.
And that's what the challenge is. This is what, what I say, you have to pull back from the lust of wanting people to see you, to hear you, to value you. You really want to pull back from that, because that adds another level of what we call I need to be seen. But if you need to be seen, it may be because you don't see yourself.
Mm, okay. I feel you on that. Um,
Yeah.
I oh gosh, it happened again. I just had a brain fart. I was about to say something. Oh, so when I'm reading on Facebook, social media, and not just Facebook, I just happen to say Facebook on, but when I'm on social media and I'm popping into different relationship discussions,
Yes.
and you know, right now there's this, it's really sad between men and women to me, this whole divide that there seems to be. And you have a lot of men that are, you know, coming out with this, well, she's got to be this and she's got to have that. And it really is not for, and women too, you know, women too, because I have guy friends who have said that, you know, they've asked a woman out and, you know, in the next 10-15 minutes, they get a text message for a cash app because they need him to send them some money to get their hair and nails and all that stuff done. So there's so many requirements that we put on each other up front until it makes you step back and say, you know what, if I just don't do any of this, I don't even have to deal with none of that. You know, men talking about, oh, she got to be submissive. We don't even, why, what? Why? It sounds like they have control issues. If that is the focus, if the focus is being submissive, the focus should be how well do we gel together versus.
Yeah, that submissiveness is a straight up ego conversation.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually fed through religion, which is really sad, because if we realize it, when we actually stop and look, if we didn't have words, we would automatically attract who is for us. Our heart, you know, we have 3 centers, right? The brain, the heart, and the gut that communicate to us what's real. And most of the time, our brain shouldn't be in the equation until after we have really got the message from our heart and felt it in our gut. But most of the time, we're setting up criteria. We're setting up, oh, you have to have this, you have to do this. That's all mental. That's all ego. It has nothing to do with what the universe, what God has in store for you. And we miss it. We miss some of our greatest gift because we literally want to nitpick. You know, I know what's right for me. But most of the time, you don't even know yourself. You know, I'm currently going through a research with some of the senior coaches. And, you know, one of our things is to do a case study. And so I picked out, you know, this reality TV show, 2 of them. One is Love is Blind. Have you ever watched that?
Yes, I like Love is Blind.
Yeah. And then the other one is Married at First Sight.
Oh my God. And that is so scary.
It's scary, right? But you know, it's certain things like, you know, first of all, we want to see where's my mirror in this? You know, who do I identify with through my communication? What am I, because most of us weren't raised in families that communicate with us.
That's true.
We don't have communication skills. So to think that we can control another person without first learning how to talk and listen with them, it's not going to work. That's a whole nother skill level. But here you have a person who is committed to growing through that with you. You see, so a lot of times when I'm watching that, it's like, man, if we could just see ourselves before we get in the relationship, you know? But again, you can, if you step into that aloneness and get out of your head and do what we call the overstanding. Like, look at the situation, not just from your perspective, but from the whole thing. Like, what is this other person's perspective? What is my soul requesting? What am I actually seeing? You see that? There's a big difference in what you can see.
Well, you know, people aren't going to ask what their soul is requesting.
So let me say this. So in my book, Patiently Waiting for Nothing, for each theme that I talk about, I always suggest further reading. So for this particular topic on aloneness, I suggested further reading The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. Are you familiar with him?
I'm familiar with the book.
Yeah, love that book. That was, you know, yeah, I probably read that book over 30 years ago. It's one of my favorites, especially in application to raising my children.
Mm.
I tell people all the time that my relationship skills came from how I related to my children, because I always knew that, you hear people, parents say, but they don't respect me. And I always hear parents say that, and I'm thinking, you don't respect them. I mean,
Mhm.
how can a child know what respect is until it's demonstrated?
Mhm.
And
That's good.
who demonstrates respect? The parent does, right? So your child comes up and trying to talk to you, and you're busy and you don't have time, and that's disrespect.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then you want to tell them, you got to do what I say. Ain't nobody
Mhm.
gonna do what you say, because at some point at the age of 7, when the reticular activating system kick in, they're gonna say, oh, I can see you clearly. you know, you don't respect me. Now they may not use those words, but they can definitely sense
Mhm.
the whole parent child. Now, suppose we really got clear that every soul is equal,
Mm.
that your responsibility is not to control this child or even grow this child, but to actually protect this child, create a secure and loving environment so that they can grow themselves.
Wow.
And inside of that, they're teaching you too, because they actually spark things that you didn't see. I mean, my children, I would not be who I am today. Master Force wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for my children, because that Master Force was created for me to create a spiritual curriculum for my oldest son when he was 10. And then it was like, if I'm going to teach him, then I have to teach his friends, because they have that peer influence.
Right.
And so it's like the whole neighborhood got to meet at my house once a week.
Mhm. Mhm. I did
And
that too, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I didn't realize I was actually
I
teaching.
did not either. Do you hear me? I just knew, what I knew at that time is that he was going to a church and they were pressuring him about accepting Jesus Christ as his savior. And I was conscious enough at that time to know, first of all, I did not want a white man saving my son. Okay.
You ain't got to worry about that.
Okay. And, right, right. And secondly, I didn't want, religion to become the focal point, because a lot of times religion move you away from God.
It does. There's
God is within you, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's so much politics and control and manipulation around religion. And a lot of people, I stopped talking about it, once I went
Yes.
through the classes and stuff and we had to study everything. That really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And people they're not open enough, because you go through that, what's that word called, where something is different, the different thing is right, but you've been cognitive dissonance, man.
Yes. Yeah. But because you've been
That's
taught this, then that's what you believe. I believe this. That's because that's all you know.
Yes. Yes. And when you learn something different or something better, it's hard to separate. It took me over a year to come to the acceptance that I knew something different now. I knew it. I knew it. I knew that I knew it. And I had to speak it out loud, because I couldn't hide behind, okay, well, you were a minister. Yep, I sure was at one point.
Yes, yes,
But now I'm not even Christian. So we
yes.
can have that conversation. But, a lot of people are just like, oh, the church must have hurt you. No. No.
You outgrow it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because I remember being 19, because you remember the story. I told your audience the story when I broke my hip, thigh, and knee, and I read the book, um, um, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. So now here I am at 17 with some information that nobody around me has.
Right.
I can't talk to nobody about this. I mean, because, in the book, they talk about out of body experiences and how when you travel, you can create your path so that things turn out the way that you want. You know what I'm saying? So here I am at 19 thinking, man, I know a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. Well, guess what the universe did? The
What?
universe popped my bubble. Universe said, well, let me show you what you don't know.
Mm-mm.
Right? Because as soon as we think that we have the answer and we're no longer listening to the God within us, that means we're ready for another level of initiation.
Ooh,
Oh,
Lord.
yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you this. And now, because of that, we have to go back inside and we want to train ourselves to not always have to learn through pain and suffering. We can learn through love.
Mm-hmm.
We've been taught that, oh, the only way you can learn something is in pain. So that's all we do. We wait until we down and out and sorry, then we start looking for God. No, you can actually create a spiritual relationship on a daily basis as soon as you open your eyes and connect to your spirit and your soul and be driven by that all day. But how do you do that? You have to be alone. You have to create a space that your aloneness is sacred. And it's so sacred that you do not give it up for, some good dick or some good pussy. You just don't.
Right, right, right.
You know, you don't get dependent on someone for your happiness.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then when they leave, now you're crumbled.
Yep. And I went through that. I
Yeah,
definitely went through that.
we all initiated in that. But
Mhm.
then, I talk to people, and they say, oh yeah, well, I've never been in love, or my heart has only been, this is you. My heart has only been broke once or twice. I ain't doing it no more. Well, guess what? Your heart has to be broken so many more times for you to actually know the expansiveness of its nature.
Woohoo, Miss Rita, you just always keep telling me that.
I know. So for you to avoid that heartbreak, right? Then you're actually avoiding the deepest level of joy. That's why it's that so many people that have gone through hard times growing up or hardship or had a lot of loss and trauma seems to have a deeper love because they know that love doesn't disappear, right? With the pain, it actually gets stronger. Every relationship builds off of your amazing love that you had the last time.
Woo.
But most people close themselves off. So there's nothing for the universe to do with that. And that's why that whole thing about being submissive, you got to be submissive, man, woman, child, to the universe, to God. You got to open to receive. You have to do that. To have another person do that, to honor you, is telling them to dishonor their God.
Mm-hmm.
And most religions do that. Most religions teach us to dishonor our relationship with our God and place it with this doctrine. And now I want you to believe this, and I want you to follow me. No.
Particularly, well, I won't say particularly the Christian religion, but because submission is prevalent in a lot of religions. And they say it's God is the head, then the man, and then the woman. So the woman kind of serves the man, and then the kids and stuff, but whatever, so when you talk about humbling your God, humbling the God in you to someone else, just that whole hierarchy kind of shows what you just said.
Yeah. And it really does cause this, what you were talking about, the issues that we have with men and women, because our men actually need us. right? They need us on Saturday. I was talking to a brother King this morning, and I said, it's so much fear in our community. It's so much fear. And then on top of the fear, is so much like disbelief. So they won't go beyond that cognitive, what did you say? Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, they won't go beyond that because of their own fear. They're still living inside of a conversation that they started, you know, I don't know, when did people get religion? 10, 15, whatever, when you join the church or whatever, right? 20, right? When you actually have to make a conviction or something. At 20 and now you're 30 and you haven't checked in to see, is there something beyond that? That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't
But
make
then,
sense to me.
but then you see the suffering of our community.
Yes. And you said that men really need women, but if you read on social media or watch a lot of these, what is it called? The manosphere. And a lot of men in those groups, or it's kind of a whole movement at this point, they're starting to look at women as, aside from sex, what do we really need women for? Because we can cook and clean and do our own laundry or hire someone to do it. And to me, that just so misses the whole personal connection that you have with someone who is supposed to be in your life. I think that these people often have chosen the wrong person, and like you said, shut down. And I have certainly done it. I'm working to get out of it now. Because when you go through that heartbreak, and I'm one of those people I've only been through it twice, and I just don't necessarily want to go through it again. And especially in this climate where it seems like men almost hate women now.
They and secretly so, right? Because they'll push up on you and try to act like they, and then when they get to know you, they just like, let me see if I can break you.
Right.
It's like, let me see what will break you. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and it's malice, it really is, and it is sad. But at the same time, we know that this is a transitioning time. And that's why I tell my sister queens, I said, the reason that many of us are single is because we have to be strong in order to deal with what's going on in the world and to keep growing our community. Because if we get caught up in all of this misinformation and this misdirecting, do you know that if we get caught up, everything is lost? Everything is lost if women stop serving the community and the family. And it's kind of like, and so if men can take that, but I promise you, they will get to a certain age or certain space in their life where the universe is going to come back around with that conversation. And maybe if they're grown, they could end up in a good relationship. But if they haven't, they'll probably choose somebody who they think fits with their ego says they need, and they're going to have to suffer through some heartbreak. Because the universe is committed to growing us to be whole and complete, not satisfying, our egos. It just doesn't work like that. That's a temporary.
That fear of pain, though, it is a motivator for you to sometimes choose to be alone.
Oh yeah. I had to check myself, a few times in the past couple of years. I heard myself say, one day I was washing the dishes and I said, man, men are really, and I said, say, no, you don't. No, we ain't. Right. Okay. When you using a pot to cook and you burn something in the pot, you don't say all pots are,
That's
you know,
true.
you
That's
don't say,
true.
oh man, I'm gonna throw out all these pots because I just burned something. No, you don't, so again, we can use that work, turn it around. What did you learn? What about yourself do you need to shore up? You know, most people don't know how to stand comfortable in their insecurities.
Because a lot of people, yeah, a lot of people really just don't like themselves or where they are in life, period. And sometimes connecting to another person makes them feel worthy, I guess.
Oh my God. And I had a sister tell me the other day, she said, men do not want strong women, powerful women. They really don't. And I said, I don't I can hear that. But what I really think is going on is that most of us have not seen good relationships, equal relate. We haven't seen that. Again, we talked about the communication earlier, but also just the behaviors that we've seen. Even look at what they show on television, the
Mhm.
housewives of Hollywood, and those are not nurturing women.
Right,
What I'm
right,
saying?
right.
And then when they show the nurturing women, they then, oh, she did so much nurture for everybody else that she died young. Hello, no. Let me read this quote. This is a quote from The Road Less Traveled. It says, dependency may appear to be love because it is a force that causes people to fiercely attach themselves to one another.
Hmm.
But in actuality, it is not love. It is a form of anti-love.
Hmm.
It has its genesis in a parental failure to love, and it perpetuates the failure. It seeks to receive rather than to give. It nourishes infantilism rather than growth. It works to trap and constrict rather than liberate. Ultimately, it destroys rather than builds relationship, and it destroys rather than build people.
Wow.
Yeah. So most of the time you have relationships. And I remember my first marriage, I got married at 19, and my husband literally shut me off from my whole family, wanted me to be the housewife. And I said, oh, now I look back, I said, now I know why men want women 10 years younger than them or 15 years younger than them. Because now I can put in your head what I want you to do.
Yep. Yep.
And
They
you're not
groom
going,
them. They
they're
groom
going to
them.
groom them, right? You
Hmm.
don't know nothing. Let me just tell you what a woman's supposed to do. You're
Hmm.
supposed to walk on my back every night. You're supposed to do yoga with me. You're supposed to cook and clean. You're supposed to have my children and shut up.
Right.
Because this dude was kind of person, if I even looked like I was getting ready to say something, he would just pop me in my eye just because I was looking at it. You talk about initiation. I was like, okay, so how do I communicate with a person that is afraid to hear my truth?
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just really, but that was what my training ground was. I'm grateful for what I learned from him. When he was killed, I had mixed emotions because I was glad that my pain was over, but I was sorry that my father, the father of my children gone, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, so
I
it was.
totally understand that.
Mm.
In relationships, I think that I don't think it's that men don't want successful women. And I don't think it's that women, don't want successful men, or because they say, women want bad boys or whatever. I think that the issue in a lot of relationships is, one, the competition. I think that we don't want to really have to compete. And two, the judgment, and that's one of the things that the judgment is what I feel in the dating realm. You know, when you are building a business, no matter where you are, especially once you reach a certain point, everybody thinks you should have had a 9 to 5 and be living in the big house. And so the judgment part for me is what is a hindrance with dating, even though I have a house, you know, and all that stuff. But the judgment and the competition, those are two things in the dating world that I think are hindering both genders.
Yeah, and imagine too that that's materialism, isn't it?
Yes, it's absolutely
Yeah,
materialism.
and it again, it has nothing to do with what mission are you on, what's your soul asking for, where is your spirit directing you? You know what I'm saying? And that's why people are so quick to say, "Oh, if she don't have this, she don't have that, he don't have this, I'm not dealing with him."
Mm-hmm.
But they can have all of that stuff and be evil as hell.
Mm-hmm. And I
They,
remember back in the day, because I used to watch the Millionaire Matchmaker lady, whatever her name was,
Mhm.
and she had a couple millionaire guys on there. And when they went on the dates with these women, they would pretend that they weren't really as rich as what they told whatever her name was. And they would take them to a house. They would ride in a car. But because they didn't come off as being truly millionaires, the women complained. They didn't, it's like, I'm supposed to meet a millionaire and he's not a millionaire. He fools you, whatever, and in a way, and I used to think that that was wrong too. I'm like, why wouldn't you just be who you are? Why would the lies start? But in our society that is so materialistic,
yeah. Hmm.
I understand to a certain degree because, okay, if I'm a millionaire, I was just listening to Melinda Gates. She did an interview, I think it was with Barbara Walters. She said that she finally divorced Bill Gates because he cheated all the time. And she put up with it for a while. He had an ex-girlfriend that he just never stopped loving, and she would allow him to be with her once a month.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, in with all of that, I just think, so are you there for the money? Are you there for the things? Or are you there for that person that's there? And that was what I learned on my own. But back in the day when I would watch The Millionaire Matchmaker, I used to wonder why those men would do that. Because yeah, they're gonna do whatever they need to do to get close to that million. But if the millions weren't there, would they still be trying to get close to that man or
That's
woman?
true.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. But I can actually say that it does go both ways. It goes both ways. I remember when we lived in our house in Hyde Park, how many people, oh yeah, were my friend, and then when we moved from the house, it was like, yeah, I don't know you. you
Mm.
and it was and at first it took me a minute to see, because I literally, I love my naivete. I will not let anyone destroy that in me, right? I know how to deal with my hurt without getting, dangerously bitter. But it took me a minute to realize that people were not my friend.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, what can I get from you?
Mm-hmm.
Just like they said about dependency, it's more about, it's not about giving. When love is always about giving. Matter of fact, true love is about the spiritual development of another human being. How do I help you to expand and grow into the highest version of your best self?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not how do I give up my life so that you feel fulfilled and I don't.
Because we should both want to, if we love each other, we're both trying to help the other, you know.
That's right. And that's why you find your soulmate or whatever, because you you know how to receive from the universe. So you don't have to take that energy from your partner. You don't have to make sure that your partner know how to complete you. They're Hollywood made up relationships are so unreal. And I promise you, I watch all the romantic movies. But it's mainly because I like to keep my energy up, right? But you can see through it, and it's like if people are basing their real life situations off of Hollywood, we're not going to progress very much at the spiritual level
Right. Definitely.
because relationships are work. So the most natural thing you can have is someone that truly loves you, and not for your money, not for sex, not for position, or what they can do for you, because there's no substance in that. The money could go away.
Yep.
The looks can fade.
Yep.
The position can change.
Mhm.
And so if that love isn't solid, that relationship is going to change right along with it. It becomes superficial, which most relationships are.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and why we have such a huge, what do they call it? Divorce rate.
What is the divorce rate now? Do you know? I heard that it's like 51.
Oh
One.
yeah, it's increasing. Yes, it's increasing. Actually, I think it's more than that. But I think actually from state to state, it changes up.
Okay.
But yeah, the average probably is right at 50-55%.
I do believe you said something earlier about, we're in a time of transition. I've been referring to it as evolution. And I actually am planning to do a podcast, regarding relationships. And as they evolve, my question is evolving to what?
To our higher spiritual evolution. Actually, it's so interesting. I'm reading this book right now. It is called Breaking the Habit of Death,
Hmm, that's
right?
interesting. Hmm.
It's very interesting. And a lot of what he teaches is really along the line of what we've been teaching at Master Force, mastering your life force, right? But certainly at a deeper, much deeper level. And so really the evolution becomes how deep and how earnest can you love. So love being the main measure, love, joy, happiness, all of that is within you. And so you have everybody doing, you've heard of the book of Job in the Bible.
Hmm.
Each one of us are going through some form of Job's, demonstrated life, so that we can get serious about our connection to God, our connection to the universe. So I don't even like using the word God because it's such a bigger, um, and then they have God be masculine when actually you need both the male and female energy to make the world what it is, and even to create the universe it has to have both of those energies. You have to have a receiver and a giver. You can't just be the giver.
I stopped using the word God too because it's so wrapped up in the Christian religion. And
Yes,
so as soon
yes,
as you say God, they just assume that you're Christian. So I usually refer to the universe or life force.
exactly. Source energy,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I use it. So let me ask you this with reference to the evolution. So you said we're evolving to our highest form of spiritual being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let me ask you, so we're always evolving. And
always. Well,
and
some of us are.
well, yeah, that's the hope anyway. In evolution, though, dinosaurs became extinct. So in evolution, some things go away. And the way that relationships are going today, when I think of evolution, which is why my question was evolving to what, when I think about the divide between men and women right now, what exactly are we evolving to?
Well, what we're evolving to right now is waking up to the social construct of the matrix that we've been living. The reason that we see relationships failing right now is because we've been put inside of a construct that has said since the time we were born, this is how things are supposed to go. But that's not based on what your soul is saying. That's based on a societal construct that has Black people separated from white people. You understand? When we know that color is a full spectrum of the rainbow. But now, because I've been placed and isolated over here, I don't actually have the same opportunity to learn and expand in the way that some other people do. So then now my conversation becomes, I'm disadvantaged or I'm underserved. You see that? Those are all constructs, has nothing to do with the truth of who we are.
Okay.
Because there's a intelligence in us. I mean, and you can see this. Look at this whole thing with the whole COVID-19 and the media trying to tell us that our immune system is inferior to a freaking thing that they want to put in our arm.
Right.
You're gonna tell me that the creator of the universe cannot heal my body that came from the universe?
Right.
You see, but how many people would challenge you on that?
Oh, a lot.
A lot, because they are still inside that matrix. So now the evolution, the way we keep going is this whole transhumanism, which is a whole nother show, right? This whole thing where now that we've got you to begin to eat GMO foods and take these things in your arm and stay inside so you don't get vitamin D. And, you know, now that we can have you do all that, we can program you to do anything. And we can cancel out our competition.
And that goes right along with that whole metaverse thing.
Come on. Yeah. So that's a false evolution. Literally what real humans need to go back. We have to go all the way back. We have to start over. We got to go back to the earth. We got to put our hands in the dirt. We have to get back to Mother Nature. We have to balance the techno with what really is the soil of the soul.
So actually what this evolution is about, we really do need to do away with all of the false constructs of what we thought a relationship was supposed to be. So we're breaking down all of that stuff, and that's actually what needs to happen.
It needs to happen. And literally,
and those of us who are having a problem with it are those that are still trying to hold on to what we've taught, that cognitive dissonance again.
That's right. We're trying to force it. It got to be like this, instead of allowing ourselves to see, oh, but wait a minute, that wasn't working anyway.
Right. I hear people talking about going back to the old days when things was different. I'm like, wasn't that different? Because grandpa still had a bunch of family, some up the street and
everywhere. Oh, you just didn't know about it. The only difference now is that you're gonna be on the internet.
Exactly.
Get away with it so quickly. But also, women weren't in their power back then. You understand? This is a whole different. We go back to that. It's not a powerless. It really is an opportunity to create something from a space that's not about competition. We've been trained to compete. I don't like to compete in relationships. I'm not going to try to prove myself to you or somebody else.
Right.
You know, this is just who I am. You get what you get. Right. You know, and literally I change every day because I'm always reading and doing something different and challenging myself on stuff. Last year was one of the hardest years that I went through, and I still tried to do everything to keep my promises. That was my commitment to myself. It had nothing to do with accountability or authority or somebody checking on me. You understand? And that's what the work is, to be accountable to your soul. Where you're listening for, what is it that I am to do next? And you can clearly hear a response. or sense your next step and trust it because you've gotten to know yourself at such a deep level. Now, when you start to walk in that type of relationship, you seem to have more access to things that will make your life seem a little better, will help your healing go a little better. You still may get sick, but now we're going to make sure that you're going to be strengthened on the other side of it. Because sometimes, we go through these immunity crises so that we can change to adapt to this bull crap that they put in the air.
Yep.
We're being challenged on so many levels that it's not enough of us realizing that what we have to do is develop our spirituality. Our spirituality is what has to become our holding space, so that no matter what I go through, I feel safe, even in death. Now that's an evolution if we can get to that, because now we can take more risk. Oh yeah, I can do that. I'm not talking about life threatening, you can still jump out of airplane and all that, but I'm talking about literally challenging your fears. I'm not afraid to have my heart broken. Whew. Matter of fact, that's what real love is, knowing that this person has the potential to break your heart and you hope that they don't. Now that's what real surrender is, when you're willing to give your heart, knowing that somebody has the choice to either love you or leave you. And you can still know that you are right with either one of those. And you can still endure the pain of releasing that person. And then hopefully stay brave enough to allow another person is, if that is what the universe tends.
Miss Rita, you be wanting us to be too grown up.
Ooh, it's that Queen of Spades shit. I be like, man, can I just live a simple life with some wine and some chocolates on the beach?
That's what I want.
That's why I jet out of here sometimes. Sometimes, man, I go and find it. Even if it's just for a minute, like, I got to go find.
Throw in a little legal marijuana.
I'd be too deep for myself. It's like, so.
Man, yes.
But let me read this other quote, because it's so deep. When I read it, I was like, okay. And it's a little lengthy. Falling in love is not an act of will. It is not a conscious choice. No matter how open to or how eager for it we may be, the experience may still elude us. Contrarily, the experience may capture us at times when we are definitely not seeking it, right? When have you fallen in love with somebody unexpectedly, right?
That's always going to happen.
Right, when it is inconvenient and undesirable. We are as likely to fall in love with someone with whom we are obviously ill-matched as with someone more suitable. Indeed, we may not even like or admire the object of our passion. Yet, try as we will, we may not be able to fall in love with a person whom we deeply respect and with whom a deep relationship would be in all ways desirable. This is not to say that the experience of falling in love is immune to discipline. Psychiatrists, for instance, frequently fall in love with their patients, just as their patients fall in love with them. Yet our duty to the patient in their role, they are usually able to abort the collapse of their ego boundaries and give up the patient as a romantic object. The struggle and suffering of the discipline involved may be enormous, but discipline and will can only control the experience. They cannot create it. We can choose how to respond to the experience of falling in love, but we cannot choose the experience itself.
Mm, man.
Right? Because how many people you fell in love with, like, oh no,
You know, the ex that I talk about all the time,
yeah,
that I enjoyed him so much, but there was so many things that we were completely, I mean, just completely different on. There was sometimes I would be like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like I couldn't understand why, but there was just something that was so strong between us as well. So yeah. Um,
well, and then there's always that piece too. You know, it's like, can you be in the space of someone and allow them to be who they are without trying to change them?
I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that because I don't want to exert that much energy. So I
No.
can be there and not try and change them, but I will also still, you know, in my mind, acknowledge that, okay, these are things that are really not necessarily okay with me. And they're going to see that there's a difference between us. So are they, you know, are they going to try and change? But I guess they wouldn't try and change because why would they want to change? And that's just who they are. So, I don't know. That was deep. That made me think about a whole bunch of stuff. Just
When I read that, I did think of you and how many times you're like, oh my God, no. Okay, you back over there. Okay, now you're not.
right, right, right. And there was just so many differences, but there was a lot of similarities, and we had fun together. But we've had that conversation. That's just where I was at that point in my life. I needed that. I needed that because there was nothing else giving me what I needed at that time. So that's just what I needed at that time.
Yeah. And that's important too, to know what you need, and to also, I'm so grateful that I have just so many rich relationships around me that are both men and women, young and old. I was meeting and talking with my mentor the other day that just really see me beyond how I see myself, which is important. It's important to have people that see you in a fuller expression, right? And believe in you and have you move in that direction, as compared to you always thinking, man, am I doing this right? You know what I'm saying? Because on my line, very few people are doing what I'm doing or have done what I did, right? So it's always like that, going out of the gate without any direction. Is coming from the inside. Does that make sense? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so to be able to talk to someone and other people that can get you is so important. And many times we try to put that on our relationship, but maybe that's not what that relationship is for.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because maybe there's some other connection, that it brings to the table.
Mm-hmm. So I got another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Get back on the loneliness versus aloneness thing. So if someone right now is really struggling with feeling lonely, what can they do?
Oh yeah, that was, yes. So one of the things that I really suggest people do is to kind of break out of their status quo. If your aloneness has you drink a lot or drink on a daily basis, right, to kind of feel good about yourself or to not feel the pain, kind of break that up a little bit and find a different form of expression. Maybe instead of a drink, exercise, or maybe walk. There's many of videos on YouTube where you can just walk in your house, walk in place. Movement. The body loves to move. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to sit still. So a lot of times, if you actually start moving, you raise the endorphin levels in your body, right? You begin to feel better about yourself. So now you can think a little bit different. The other thing that you can do is to go and sit in the tub of water and breathe.
Well, I'm gonna do that this weekend.
Yes, baby. Yes, yes, yes. You know, that's what I miss about our favorite place down there. What's the name of it? But anyway, we ain't
King
giving,
Spa.
I was gonna say we ain't giving no freebies. Now
Oh, whoops. Yep.
yeah, if we can immerse ourselves, water is so purifying.
Yes.
Part of our work is spiritual purification, right, on a regular basis. So just getting in some water and allowing yourself, and believe it or not, a good cry is so cleansing because you have chemicals in your body that need to be released, that they're there from stress, from hurt, from disappointment. So when you cry, you're cleansing, you're releasing something. And when you do that in tub of water, it's almost like triple effective, right?
Hmm.
You know, and then the other thing, if at all possible, light a candle and journal. Like just be with your thoughts, put them down. If you don't want to write, draw.
Mm.
Sketch, make symbols, but the thing is to get out of our head. We keep having the same thoughts over and over and over. It says the average person has 65,000 thoughts a day,
Good Lord.
and 95% of them are negative or repetitive.
Yep.
They're 95%. So you ain't even having no new thoughts. You just doing the same. So this is where, right now, when we're going through the research, we're doing a 30-day program where, every morning you get up and you write these affirmations. You write on a piece of paper. Now you can't text it in your phone and get on your laptop. No, longhand. You
Oh
write
my.
affirmations. You write them down. And this is symbolic. Remember when we were in school and if you were caught talking, I don't know, maybe you weren't one of those girls, but if you were caught, I had to write.
Good and well, I was one of them girls.
You gotta write 1,000 times. I will not talk.
Right.
What kind of fucking program?
Lord have mercy. Yes, I was absolutely. I'm
Talk
still
about,
talking.
right. Well, our generation don't have our boys. I had to learn from the youngest. I had to learn from my daughter how to find my boys. Because boy, I was ever writing was I will not talk.
And here we are.
But writing, it's connected, to our brain, and it stimulates thought, but it also it's like a cleansing process, so it opens us up, it opens up our creativity. And then that's the next thing. What is your creative expression? Most of the time, if I'm not on a project, I'm crocheting.
Okay.
And that gives me almost a instant productivity, because I'm a queen of spades. Queen of spades like to be productive. So in order for me to be still, I have to create still things to do. So crocheting is one of them, besides writing. But really, I would tell people to, journal, get in the tub, and move. Those are the three things I would say right now, if they are really looking at getting out of their aloneness. But I don't want you to get out of your loneliness. I want you to go into it.
Into the loneliness?
Yeah, I want you to
into the fire?
Into the fire. I want you to embrace it and see what it is that you're afraid of. What are you afraid of?
I think they're afraid of being alone.
Yeah, but guess what? We're born alone and we're gonna die alone.
That's true.
So we have to learn how to live alone. That doesn't mean, I think what we're afraid of is, will I be like this the rest of my life? Well, if you keep that thought going on over and over in your head, you probably will. So we want to actually move you beyond that, but you got to deal with how we got there. And again, when we were listening to the quote from M. Scott Peck, he said, most of us are looking for relationships to deal with parental failure. I didn't have a daddy. I didn't have a mama. I was mistreated. They left me. Well, yeah. And they probably left you on purpose because that was the agreement that you made from your soul's plan, because your soul needed to do something. And if your parents were there, you wouldn't do it.
Wow.
They would get in the way of you finding your higher self. But some of that, again, society teaches us to think that our traumas are bad and that we should suppress them. And what we teach is to embrace them and find the gift that's inside.
Right.
Universe.
That's really the only way you get past it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you do continually think about the same thing over and over again. You continually drag your past into your present, and there's no way you can get to the future dragging the past along with you. You know,
because you keep it in your, it's in your future.
Right.
Right. That's all you're thinking about.
Right.
And now what? You just put it right there.
And continually think about it. So what about those people who are strong in their aloneness? Do we say yes, or do we say don't shut off to the possibility of someone else?
Oh yeah. Well, the universe is not going to let us do that anyway. The universe is so like, would throw us in the fire. Now, the universe would throw us in the fire. Just like I said, when you least expect it, you find yourself in love with somebody that now you have to figure out what's next on that.
Right.
And then you have to break whatever barriers because you've gotten safe. You see, we get safe. We get like, so what did we say? If they can't change my comfort, then I don't want to. But no, well, maybe you're too safe. Maybe we have to shake it up a little bit because you still have got to accomplish your mission. That's what you came here for. So now the universe is going to send whatever challenge we need to remind us of who we are.
For me, that whole, and probably because I am an only child, so that's just what I've always known, is pretty much being alone. For me, I feel a sense of freedom. I've been in a lot of relationships and I've been married. And the thing is, having to deal with what someone else wants and likes and needs, what they expect of you and all that kind of stuff, it can be draining sometimes, and by the time you get to be a woman of my age, sometimes you don't necessarily want to have to deal with what nobody else want and think and feel and need. I just want to do what I want to do. Like, tomorrow we leave for the girls' trip. Now, what if I had a mate that just really didn't want me to go anywhere without them?
Well, suppose you've grown enough to not attract at that level.
Oh, I sure hope so, because that would be horrible.
Yeah, suppose you literally get to the point where you attract a mate that loves their freedom just as much as you do. And so they're not going to try to hinder you. Yeah, they may want to be included, but to have the choice to be included, but doesn't mean they're going to stop you from following through on what you want to do, because they enjoy their space too.
I want to attract a mate that's supportive. How do I do that?
That's what?
Supportive.
Are you supportive?
Yes, very much so. I'm always hopping on somebody else's bandwagon and they just leave me on their bandwagon. My bandwagon empty over there.
Yeah. So let's look at that. because if that is a place where you're always finding or find yourself often, that's a pattern, right?
Mhm.
So say what the pattern is again.
So when I meet someone and, get into a relationship kind of thing, I'm not just doing this for everybody that I meet. But to some degree, I do because, I'm an encourager. That's what I do. I like to help people. And so, if they're in, let's say they're in real estate, because I have a passion for real estate. Let's say they're in real estate, then I'm helping to find houses or I'm doing paperwork, I'm doing whatever I could do to help them do more of what they want to do. If they want to grow, I want to help them grow. I dated a guy once that wanted to start a catering thing. So I was making flyers and I was asking my friends, don't you want to try these, hot wings? He make them with ghost peppers. I didn't even know what a ghost pepper was until I washed dishes and touched my eye. Then I knew what it was. So I'm always like on everybody's bandwagon trying to help them, even with friends. I go to a friend's house and see that they may not have matching dishes or whatever. And so for Christmas, I'm, bringing the dishes for Christmas present, and I may not ever get a Christmas present from that person. I just find myself that I'm like a giver. And
Yes.
I mean, I do get some stuff in return, but it's not always, I guess, what I would want in return. Like I always wanted somebody to be like on my team with me, like I'm on their team. So some younger women, when I was a little bit younger, women younger than that. So I've had a car bought for me twice, by a man, and they were like, "How do you get the man to do that?" Well, I don't have a clue because that was never what I was on. That's not even what I necessarily wanted. I really wanted, something different. But maybe I need to just accept what comes. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you said quite a bit, but a couple of things that I can hear that would be a red flag is how we talk about no rescuing.
Yes.
So sometimes we really want to make sure that when we're extending ourselves to people, that it's at their request, because otherwise we can make them feel like we think they can't do it. You know how your children, I'll never forget my son, he, he tie my own shoe. And I'm looking dead at him knowing this shoe ain't tied right. You know?
Right.
But you're 3 years old, you can tie your own shoe. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm gonna let you tie your okay. Because otherwise, and this is what we get a lot of. We get a lot of parents that will squash their child's confidence, their ambition, their tenacity, because the parent wants to show them that they can't. You need me. So if anybody, and mostly men, if they've grown up with an overbearing mother, then they tend to keep attracting overbearing women. And I don't know if they don't realize it, right? But then at some point, it's not what they want. So sometimes we have to actually be less giving,
Because it can come off as overbearing.
Yeah, and well, and it also takes away from who we really are, because we really want to give more to ourselves. We really want to focus, if he's building a catering service, what are you building?
I had an event planning service at the time.
But
But my business was good at the time. I was good where I was. And I just felt like, and I like that, that feeling of being self-employed and being successful at it. And I wanted him to have that feeling because, well, his mom had died and he just seemed to have been in a depression. And so I thought,
but can you hear that you were trying to rescue him? You were saying I wanted him to feel what I felt, but that might not have been his path. He may have had to go through his depression. He may have had to experience that loss. so that he could get to whatever space, they say people have to hit rock bottom before they can know how to climb back up.
Mm.
And if we're rescuing him, I want to make this easy. You know, I like to consider myself self-made. It's never been easy.
You got that right.
Right?
Get that right, because building a business, it's gonna be everybody glamorizes. Oh, you're a successful entrepreneur. Yeah, you know what that means. Yeah, that means
No, man, most don't know what it means.
they don't know what it means exactly. Right.
But when you stood in that for yourself, let me read this quote from again, this is the road less traveled. Life is difficult. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Because once it is accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. End of quote.
I'm so afraid of that affirmation. I don't want to say that though.
No, right? When I first read that 30 years ago, I was in a difficult situation. I sure didn't want to read it in a book. I know. It's difficult. You don't have to tell me this.
It could definitely be a challenge.
Wait a minute. And so when I find people that have not had a difficult life, it took me a long time to not envy that, right? It took me a long time because I realized the character. I don't meet, and I think I was 35 years of age when I actually said, wow, as challenging as my childhood was, if I had to come back, I would still choose that path.
Really?
Yes, because I don't meet people like me.
That's true.
I have not, right.
That's true.
I do not meet people, and I love my heart. I love my heart. I love my willingness to live. When I could have died so many times, I mean, most people, last year I went through so much stuff, and very few people even knew because it was inside of my own expansion.
That's a huge question though, when you really think about it, because I've been sitting here asking myself, if I could do it again with my childhood, would I want it to be the same way it was?
Yeah, and you want, so that's a good examination in your long time. What did I learn? This is why I'm actually doing this course. What did your soul plan on you learning? So we have these different virtues, and so at different times in life, we're expanding on those virtues. And if we haven't allowed ourselves the chance to learn what those are and actually become fully engaged in our own development, then they just keep showing up as pain in the butt. We go through stuff to increase our faith, to increase our compassion, for us to actually take on what it looks like to help another human being without interfering with their growth, to be there for people. All of that takes time. And you get a whole lifetime to do it, but it still takes time.
All right. Well, that was a really great conversation, which we always have anyway.
Wait a minute, I want to just say right quick what the divine virtues I was looking for. So, and I'm making it real quick because I know you have somebody in the wings. So the divine virtues include compassion, trust, patience, empathy, unconditional love, faith, self-referencing, surrender, love, joy, peace, and perseverance, just to name a few.
Do you think acceptance is possible?
Acceptance?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You think
Yes.
there'll be a time when people just accept people for who they are and how they are and not try and judge them or change them?
95% of the population is still asleep. So you don't want to look for it out there. But remembering that the the more you change, the more your frequency change, the more you vibrate at a level that puts you inside of a circle of people who are like-minded. And that's why you want to do your work. And if we can get more people to do their work, then that expansion continues to happen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when is your next show, Miss Rita?
Oh, geez. I just told myself I know this answer because I was like, I know she's gonna ask me. I don't like to be a bad student.
It's always that point in the show when I ask that question, I
I
start
know.
laughing because
It's
everybody's
right.
like, oh man, I knew you was gonna ask me this too.
It's gonna be the 7th of April.
April 7th. It
April
should be
7th.
springtime by then.
Spring comes in on the 21st, so it should be nicer weather, but you know, our New Year is gonna be, we'll be celebrating that when the sun come out.
Ooh, I can't wait for all of that. You might have to come go on one of these getaways with me too.
Yeah, I think my next trip is in May. I'm going to Jamaica. Yep, in May. I'm actually going out of town this month.
Yeah, you always out of town anyway. I'm gonna
I
have to.
try to go one a month. I try to
Oh, you
get,
do? Okay.
yeah, if I can. If
You
I
already
can.
got your August and September planned out?
Do I have August? I do have September, but not August.
Because my birthday is in August and I gotta do something.
Yeah, we can do something in August.
I was actually thinking I wanted to go to Paisley Park.
Oh, you know, if we're gonna do that, we do want to do it in the summer.
That's right. I know, that's right.
We ain't taking no April trips up there because we know that's
No,
snow.
exactly. I am not trying to go there. My youngest daughter moved there, and I'm like, what on earth?
Mm-mm.
And she lived in California for a while. I'm like, how do you go from LA to Minnesota?
Is she still there now?
Yes. Well, she's in Milwaukee right now. I actually spent the last few days with my grandkids. So when you're talking
Oh,
about kids and not crushing them and stuff, I was thinking about my grandson last night, and he was eating his macaroni, right? And so he started out eating it with his fingers, one noodle at a time, right? And he just had the little cheese all around his mouth. It was so funny. And then I gave him a spoon, right? And so it wasn't a little bitty baby spoon, which I guess is what he's used to. But what he does is he uses it like a shovel. He sticks it in there. He picked up the macaroni and then he flipped it as if it was just going to flip right into his mouth. Some of it got into his mouth, but some of it just, fell by the wayside. And I wanted to show him a better way. And he wasn't having it at that moment. And so I didn't force him. I let him continue to do it his way until maybe one day he'll be like, is it a better way where I can get more of my macaroni that don't all fall? So when you said that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna force him to learn ahead of what he's comfortable with learning. Is that what I should have learned from that statement?
yes, that is so cool. I'm telling you, it's just my relationships with my children is really a testament of what I learned from the universe, because they now get to coach me in situations, and we have respect and honor for what each other is talking about. Instead of like in my family, it was like if you were young, you couldn't say nothing, and if you were a child, you really couldn't say.
Right. That's how it was in my family too. Okay, Miss Rita. Well, thank you so much for your show
Thank
today. It was
you.
definitely a great show as always. And I will let you know when the replay comes. Do you have any final words for your listeners?
Final words, thank you for listening to me and for forgiving me. And I'm right there with you on this path of living alone. And I have been in my space for 10 years. And it's a beautiful space. Every time somebody come into my house, they say, oh, I love a space here. So create that for yourself.
That's excellent. All right. All right. Well, that was Miss Rita. That's what I call her anyway. Today is March 3rd. If you are listening to a replay of this show, be sure and catch the live shows on Mondays from 7 to 9 a.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 12 to 2. And we are going to take a short little break and we will be right back.